our soils are so damaged, our food is so overprocessed, and it's almost impossible to be properly nourished. And everybody I know has a countertop full of supplements. And when you take algae, because there's 40 vitamins and minerals that we test, there's probably like 200 micronutrients in there we haven't just tested for. You can eliminate many of your other supplements, and they're going to be much better for you anyways.
You are tuned into the Dr. Tyna Show with Dr. Tyna Moore. For more, visit drtyna.com. On this episode of the Dr. Tyna Show, I'm sitting down with Catharine Arnston. Catharine is the Chief Scientific Officer and founder of ENERGYBits. She is literally the algae fairy, as I joke. She was on the show last year, and we laid out all the scientific evidence around chlorella and spirulina and how algae can be a really beneficial superfood. This time she came back because we wanted to talk about all things women, midlife women, hormones, mitochondrial health, antioxidants, you name it. We went through it and its relationship to algae, spirulina and chlorella specifically. I think you're going to find this conversation fascinating. I always enjoy talking with her, so let's jump in. Catharine, thank you so much for coming back on the Dr. Tyna Show today to talk about all things algae. I had you on last year and it was mind-blowing, and I'm so excited to have you back.
Well, Dr. Tyna, thank you. I love being a frequent flyer with you.
Awesome. I hope that I provide a good service. I've been flying around a lot lately in the last year, and I have definitely got my opinions on different airlines. So
yes. We should compare notes.
I try to go for, a high level of customer satisfaction here. No, I love your product. And I think I shared this with you last time, but my grumpy old farmer husband, he is such a fan of it. And he is if we even run low, I hear about it. Like, we're not allowed to run out. It's always like, where's my algae? Where's my algae? Yeah. And I think we particularly focus on just using it daily, sort of as almost like a multivitamin, if you will. It's just kind of it's non-negotiable. Like, that's the one thing we definitely take. And so I wanted to quickly, I know we went deep last time, but I thought we could just quickly run through what's the difference between spirulina, chlorella, and also your manufacturing process, because I think you guys do a really stand-up job. There are other companies that are not doing it so clean. And I think that part's really important. Then we're going to dive into how this is applicable to women's health, because women need to hear what you are discovering.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm glad that you take it daily. Everyone in the world should be taking it daily. While I realize a lot of people think these algae tablets are a supplement, they're actually food. And I refer to it as a foundational food, because let's face it, we are being poisoned to death. Combination of soils not having nutrients in them, so the plants don't either, and then over-processing, so there's fiber and calories, but no nutrition. And so algae is really, I think, the last shot we have at being nourished. And also that's what spirulina does, and we'll get to that. And chlorella pulls out toxins, because we're also being poisoned to death from the toxins. And if you have too many toxins in your body, it doesn't matter how much nourishment you're getting, the nutrients have a difficulty getting absorbed and getting where they need to go. So again, spirulina and chlorella work as your superheroes to give you super nourishment and keep you living long and well during your journey, particularly for women. So understanding that it's a foundational food, let's go back a little bit. First of all, it was the first life on Earth 4 billion years ago, not just the first food, but the very first life. I've now taken to calling spirulina spiritualina, because there's something spiritual about being the first life. It was a cyanobacteria like spirulina. And ultimately, that cyanobacteria evolved into becoming our mitochondria, which we're going to do a deep dive on today. So it's no surprise to me why all the nutrients found in algae are critical for supporting mitochondrial health, because basically they came from the same place. So they're family. So within the category of algae, we have two main categories. One is called macroalgae, one is microalgae. We're talking about microalgae today, but let me quickly define what macroalgae is. It's that stringy stuff you see washing up on shore, on beaches, also known as seaweed. And it's good for you because it has lots of fiber, but it has virtually no nutrition. It does have a lot of iodine in it because it comes from the ocean. Now, the other type of algae is what we're talking about today and doing a deep dive on, called microalgae. Now, microalgae is called microalgae because it's microscopic in size. You can't even see it. Something like 1 million of them could fit on the head of a pin. And it's completely opposite to macroalgae. First of all, it's found everywhere, not just the sea, and it also has virtually no fiber. Macroalgae has high fiber. Microalgae like spirulina, chlorella. Spirulina has no fiber because it's a bacteria. Chlorella does have some fiber, but very little. But it's the most nutrient-dense food in the entire universe. And that's not just my opinion. We have a quote from NASA that says 1 gram of algae has the same nutrition as 1,000 grams of fruits or vegetables. So microalgae everywhere, from the oceans, the lakes, the rivers, the streams, the soil, and it's harvested as a food crop. The two that are harvested as food crops are spirulina and chlorella. Now, microalgae, there's tens of thousands of strains. One strain is called blue-green algae, and spirulina is one type of blue-green algae. And then there's green algae, and chlorella is one strain. But I want you to understand that while there is blue-green algae in the ocean, it's not spirulina. Spirulina and chlorella are grown in fresh water. Whether you buy it from Target or Whole Foods or from us, it's harvested. It's grown hydroponically, like lots of vegetables, lettuce, tomatoes, whatever. So yes, there's algae, microalgae in the ocean, but what you buy packaged from us, it's not from the ocean, and ours is not from China. We grow ours in Taiwan, which is world renowned for having the highest quality algae, because growing algae isn't like growing broccoli or carrots. It's more like making wine. So a couple of things on that point is the angle of the sun very much affects the quality of the algae, just like it changes and affect the quality of and the flavoring of your wine. Number two, the way that the wine is produced directly affects the outcome. Same with algae. And this is what separates us from pretty much almost anybody else, because we grow ours in not just fresh water, but triple filtered spring mountain water. So no toxins, because algae will absorb whatever's in the water. So you need clean water. You can't keep microtoxins out of the ocean or lakes. And there's a company that does grow algae in Klamath Lake. And I've got science that shows that there are microtoxins in their algae, because you just can't keep it out of wild bodies of water. So very clean water. And then the most important thing, and this is going to be a very large part of our conversation today, is that we do not use high heat to dry it. A lot of the, pretty much most of the other lower quality, lower priced algae companies cut corners because they're lower priced, so they need to get market quickly. And what do they do to cut the corners? They use high heat to dry it so they can get to market quickly, yada, yada, yada. We've never done that because I chose all the processes when I started the company 15 years ago, and I started the company because my sister had breast cancer. So everything we do is to really improve the health of everyone. And there were no corners to cut. I wasn't going to build that kind of company. This is so important because one of the nutrients we're going to talk about extensively, well, there's two actually. One is an antioxidant that protects your mitochondria called superoxide dismutase, which also happens to be an enzyme. And when you use high heat on enzymes, they deactivate the enzyme. Doesn't matter whether you're cooking it at home or using it in a production process. This is why a lot of your greens powders are not as effective as algae either, because they use high heat usually to blend the tablets or the powder. We don't ever use high heat, so it preserves all these magical nutrients, many of them which are not found in any other food. So you don't want to cheat yourself by getting the cheaper version, because yes, it may have been in there initially, but using high heat deactivates it. So we're going to talk about superoxide dismutase, also known as SOD, because this is critical for protecting your mitochondria, particularly as you get into perimenopause and menopause, and your body stops producing it. Your body stops producing things like melatonin and hormones as you get older. Well, it stops production of this stuff called superoxide dismutase, which is probably not very familiar with you. But there are 25,000 studies documenting how this superoxide dismutase prevents Alzheimer's, prevents heart disease, prevents inflammation. So it's very heavily documented. But nobody knows that you get the highest concentration of it in algae, but only if it's not heated with heat over 114 degrees. So you could get fresh spirulina, or frozen spirulina. Those would work just as well as ours, but you do need it to be raw. So that superoxide dismutase is one of the critical nutrients we're going to talk about today. The other critical nutrient only found in spirulina, because SOD is also in chlorella, is the blue pigment found in spirulina. That's why it's called a blue-green algae. And this blue pigment is called phycocyanin. I'm going to spell that for you, Phycocyanin. It too is deactivated by high heat. So now you have these two critical nutrients found that are active in our algae that were originally in all algae, but if it's heated, dried with high heat, it's not there. It's like getting a great deal on a great car, and then you lift the hood and find out there's no engine in there. So it might look great, but it's not going to perform for you. And we want it to perform so it can protect you, because your mitochondria are on your side, but they need a little help from you to make sure that they can be alive and well, to keep you alive and well. So our process separates us from 90% of all the other companies that are out there. And that's why we also do third-party lab tests here in the United States, by the way. I needed to know why algae was working so well to protect people and restore their health or protect their health, and why B, ours was working better than anybody else's. And we've done some of our own clinical trials and all since we've last spoken. So I'll reference some of those results as well. Just like I said earlier, the way that a wine is made affects the outcome, the taste, the quality, everything. And so, as I mentioned, growing algae is complicated, and the higher, the more attention that you give to your production process and the higher standards that you set, the better outcomes that your clients will have, because all the good stuff is preserved. And that's what we do for everyone.
I live in wine country, so I know you're so right. The way the sun is in a season, just the whole season itself can change things. There's so many factors that go into how the wine ends up being over time. So I know that it really is a science getting behind it, and timing and everything. So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. But what amazes me, and what I'm so excited about, and why I really dove deep into algae 15 years ago, is because, as I mentioned earlier, our soils are so damaged, our food is so overprocessed, and it's almost impossible to be properly nourished. And everybody I know has a countertop full of supplements. And when you take algae, because there's 40 vitamins and minerals that we test, there's probably like 200 micronutrients in there we haven't just tested for. You can eliminate many of your other supplements, and they're going to be much better for you anyways. I also did some studies and found out that not only does spirulina have the highest protein in the world, has the highest collagen in the world. Vegans can't take them because they're mostly from bones of animals and chickens and fish and whatever. So this is a vegan source of collagen, and in many cases in most cases you're getting more anyways. So to melt the collagen down, they use chemicals, so that's not so good for the environment or for you. So you can eliminate your collagen, you can eliminate your multivitamin, you can eliminate CoQ10 and biotin, lots of nutrients. So these individual nutrients are like listening to soloists. They may be a great soloist, but why would you listen to a soloist when you can listen to the orchestra, where the soloist is part of the orchestra, and you get harmonies and synergies that aren't possible by just bringing a bunch of soloists together? Algae is your orchestra. All the harmonies are there so that they up-level each other, and you don't have to worry about taking it at certain times of day with food or without food, because everything's already done for you. Mother Nature, I can't take credit for algae. That was Mother Nature's creation. But as I mentioned, I can take credit for growing it so carefully. We preserve everything for you. So you can clear out your clutter. You can clear out some money because everything's already all there. And then you can, just selectively add things that you may want to up level even further. Algae is all I take. I do take vitamin C because there's actually not much vitamin C in spirulina. But otherwise, I hunker down and take it in the morning, afternoon, and night, and we'll talk about the different benefits of the two algae and when and why to take it at different times of day.
Okay, good. Yeah, I do want to know that, because I'm just sort of taking it as is and whatever time of day. So I want to know more about that. Well, talk to me about mitochondrial health and women in particular. You and I offline were talking about estrogen and mitochondria, and I am familiar with SOD. I used to prescribe it for patients, and I get what you're laying down there. Like, people need superoxide dismutase, and how estrogen's an antioxidant. There's a lot here to unpack.
Yes,
So
yes. Well, let
jump
me,
in.
absolutely. So I'll do a few overviews first of all. So your mitochondria are probably the most important thing that determines how well you age. So what are mitochondria? Well, they're called the powerhouse of the cell. They're these little organelles that are inside your cells, and they generate what's called ATP, which is cellular energy. You need cellular energy for everything. We're not talking just a great run or a trip to the grocery store. This is cellular energy is used by every body part, your neurotransmitters, your lymphatic system, your digestive system. Everything requires cellular energy. And so your mitochondria are what create that for you. But the problem is, as you get older, you have fewer mitochondria, and the ones that you do have tend to get damaged. And how are they getting damaged, and why do you have fewer of them? Well, the process of generating this ATP cellular energy occurs in the mitochondria. But the mitochondria have their own DNA, which is also located inside. And there's only 37 of the DNA for mitochondria compared to like 25,000 of your regular DNA. And you think, well, how important could 37 DNA be? Well, those 37 mitochondria DNA control everything. They control your regular DNA. They control cellular communication. Think of them as the air controllers at an airport. There aren't many of them, but they control everything. And if your air controllers are having a bad day, planes would crash. So when your mitochondria DNA get damaged, as they do, and I'll explain how they get damaged, your health crashes. It's just that simple. So how do they get so damaged? Well, a byproduct of this ATP stuff that we need, which is called cellular energy, a byproduct are free radicals. Let me explain what free radicals are, just so you're clear on what they are. It's a molecule that has what's an unpaired electron in its outer orbit, and nature strives for balance. So if the molecule has a single electron, it will steal an electron from a neighboring molecule to balance itself out. But then that molecule is unbalanced, and so it will steal electron from another one. And so this is what causes tissue damage. Now, the good thing is there's these good guys called antioxidants. They have lots of extra free electrons to give away. They're sort of like the kid who came to school with extra lunches for their friends. So they give them all away. And so those extra electrons that are donated by the antioxidant calms down the free radical, pairs it off, so there's no tissue damage. Perfect, right? Well, here's the problem. Your mitochondria have a second membrane. It has the outside membrane that all your other tissues cells have, which is called a lipid membrane. But your mitochondria have a second inner membrane. And why is that a problem? Because virtually no antioxidants can get in there. You could eat a room full of blueberries, a house full of vitamin C or vitamin E, and none of it will get into that inner membrane to calm down those free radicals that are a byproduct of your ATP production. There are a handful, fortunately, of antioxidants that can get in there. And the good news is they're almost all in algae: glutathione, chlorophyll, but the most important one is called superoxide dismutase. And why is superoxide dismutase so important for your calming down these free radicals? Well, it's because there's a special type of free radical that's released in the mitochondria. It's called superoxide. Now, why is it so? It's not only unique, it's the most damaging free radical of all. Why is it so damaging? Because instead of having one unpaired electron, it has three. So it's 3 times as damaging. So it is so critical that you calm this free radical down and neutralize it. And this stuff called superoxide dismutase is what does it. And how does it do it? It converts the free radical into that superoxide into harmless water and oxygen. Ta-da! So it basically saves your mitochondria. Now, the good news is your body creates this stuff called superoxide dismutase from the moment you're born. But until the age of 30, your mitochondria are protected. That's why you have so much energy. That's why you grow. That's why everything seems to work really well. Think of superoxide dismutase behaving like a big golf umbrella. If you've ever seen those big golf umbrellas, it doesn't matter whether you're a golfer or just shopping. If you suddenly get stuck in a rainstorm, you pop that big golf umbrella up, you could protect a family of 10. It's so big. So that's what superoxide dismutase does. Your body's making it for you. It doesn't stop the free radicals, but it stops the rain of them from getting to the mitochondria. Now, that works until you're 30. Now your body after 30, and you're starting to get into perimenopause and then eventually menopause, your body slows down that production of superoxide dismutase. Now that big golf umbrella that's been protecting your mitochondria is about the size of one of those city totes umbrella. So now your mitochondria are dodging raindrops or free radicals. They're getting some protection, not a lot, but some. Then by the time you're 40, your body literally stops producing this superoxide dismutase. So now that golf umbrella that was protecting you and then became a totes is about the size of a cocktail umbrella, virtually zero protection. Remember, the free radicals were always being produced, but up until that age of 40, you had this ability to convert it to oxygen and water. So there was no damage. Once you hit 40, once you're in that serious menopause stage, you lose that protection, because the fact is, up until about 150 years ago, we died at age 30. Our biology thinks we're dying. That's why it slows down estrogen. It slows down melatonin. It slows down a lot of things, including the superoxide dismutase. And scientists aren't aware, virtually nobody is aware, that algae, especially spirulina, but also chlorella, has the highest concentration of superoxide dismutase in the world. You can't get it from any other food. You can't get it, even if you took it as a supplement, it would get damaged in your digestion. And the reason why it works so well in spirulina, if it hasn't been heated with a high heat, is because spirulina is technically a bacteria. It does not even have a cellulose wall. So there's nothing for your body to break down to get access to the 40 nutrients, the high protein and the high superoxide dismutase. It goes straight into the mitochondria and helps protect it instantly. We've had people with Alzheimer's and dementia, within 24 hours, their brain is back on. And so what happens is, just like all parts of your body, all of your cells, including your mitochondria, when given the right nutrients and removing the wrong ones, they will grow back. Nothing in your body stays still. There's a great expression, you never step in the same river twice. You are constantly evolving. And so what you're putting in at the moment is creating new cells. And so that's why when you start giving your mitochondria the protection that it needs, and there's other things you can do as well, like red light therapy, building muscle. These also stimulate, cold plunges stimulate mitochondrial growth. But the best one is getting the superoxide dismutase. And we even did some clinical trials on about that last year. So this is so important for women, because at the same time they are losing all this superoxide dismutase, like men are, we are losing hormones. We are losing estrogen. And it turns out that estrogen also acts as an antioxidant in the mitochondria to protect it from free radicals, and it helps with proper functioning of the cells. And so this is why women, particularly when we get into the perimenopause and menopause, get hit twice as hard. A, we've lost the superoxide dismutase protection of our mitochondria, and B, we've lost the estrogen protection that was also protecting your mitochondria. And by the way, your mitochondria, the highest amount of mitochondria are where your greatest energy needs are. Number one is your brain. Your brain has 2 million mitochondria per cell. Next highest is women's eggs. After that is your heart. Your heart has 8,000 mitochondria per cell. So this is why when women, as we hit menopause and perimenopause, run into so much brain fog. We run into depression. There's a great book by Dr. Chris Palmer called Brain Energy, where he talks about every brain disorder ultimately is traceable to damaged mitochondria. And there's all sorts of science papers about that. So if we can get your mitochondria back up, because think of mitochondria as they're not just the powerhouse, they're the light bulbs. They keep the light in your body working. In your office tower, when the lights go out, you call maintenance and they come and replace the light bulb for you. You can't do any work without any lights. Same with your body. When your mitochondria, which are the lights that keep everything working, go out, unfortunately, you don't have a maintenance crew to come and replace it, but you do have superoxide dismutase, which you can find in the highest concentration in our spirulina algae tablets, ENERGYBits, and also the second highest is in the chlorella. But spirulina gets in there faster because it's a bacteria. So we can turn your lights back on, just as with food, not a drug, not any kind of surgeries. It's almost a miracle if there wasn't so much science proving that this worked. And we, as I said, we did our own clinical trials. And you can't argue with 25,000 clinical trials about superoxide dismutase. So we just need to get the word out that, particularly to women, you don't have to struggle with metabolic dysfunction and weight gain and fatigue and brain fog as you enter this change of life, because it happens. It's just part of life. And so I tell people, you can either, as you get into menopause years, you can either get bitter or you can get better. And I want you to get better. And one of the ways to do that effortlessly, simply, and with food is with spirulina algae, if it's raw.
I think a lot of women are walking into those years with really tanked out mitochondrial function anyway.
Totally.
They're fried out in their 20s and even earlier sometimes. And so they're, especially the younger generations and the foods that the younger generations have been raised up on, especially in this country. So people are walking in with metabolic and mitochondrial compromise, and then you add into it any drugs that they've taken, like the fluoroquinolone antibiotics, fry out your mitochondria. And so this is why we even had a study come out last year showing that there's 2 periods in a woman's life where they age aggressively. One is around 44 years old and one is again in their 60s. And it's true. I mean, mine hit later. I think it was I was around 47, 48, but all of a sudden it was like night and day. Something just happened, and it's not just the dropout of estrogen. It's all of it. This is why I say we have to train for menopause. We have to prepare for this.
Right.
Because it's hard to get on top of it when you're behind the ball,
Right. And until recently, there was not a lot of discussion about this. And Dr. Tyna, that so many science studies that were done were always with men. And women we're built differently. We have different issues. We have smaller bones, so we're more susceptible to osteoporosis. We're more susceptible to all sorts of brain disorders. And I'm convinced that so much of this is because of the double whammy of our hormonal changes with the loss of this superoxide dismutase. And so I can't do anything about the hormones, but I can certainly get this superoxide dismutase back in and turn the lights back on. And you can tell when your brain is functioning again. It's just like you just feel alert again. And to your point, these issues are hitting women earlier and earlier because of the toxicity that we're surrounded by, the glyphosate, the pesticides, the lead, the heavy metals. That's why chlorella, we'll talk about chlorella as well, pulls out all heavy metals to help protect you from this the gathering of toxins, because the average adult apparently in North America has 700 toxins in their bodies, and our immune systems in our bodies simply were not built to sustain that kind of toxic load. So it interferes with everything. It's like your nutrition that you're getting from the nourishment you're getting from the spirulina, in many cases can't get into the cell because the toxins are taking the spot of them on the receptor cells. So they work very well together. Spirulina puts nourishment in, chlorella pulls the toxins out.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, if you want to jump into that now, or we can continue on with a little bit more about, I think, talking about estrogen here. Estrogen's protective in so many ways. And I just want women to understand that it is not to be feared. And it is something that we desperately, I believe that I don't think every woman needs to supplement estrogen as they age, but I believe for optimization, it is something to be considered. That said, and I'm just sharing my opinion, I'd love to hear yours. That said, if you start throwing estrogen at a toxic body, at a body that's inflamed, at a body that's metabolically compromised, it starts, I'm talking, using transdermal, whatever kind of supplementation that women are using, bioidentical, doesn't matter. it starts to go down weird pathways. And this is something I don't hear talked about often. And so I'm very careful when I apply estrogen to a woman, and I'm always trying to find ways to clean her up first so that I can get her optimized so that the estrogen actually does what we want it to do versus it being like trying to hit a moving target. Because when you take an inflamed, especially if there's excess adipose on that body that is acting as its own endocrine system, and you start throwing estrogen patches at these women, things get really messy. So I think what you're proposing here, as far as just but one tool in a toolbox of how to get on top of that, this is one of the main reasons I take the ENERGYBits, because it makes sense to me as part of that. I'm extra diligent about liver support and keeping the liver healthy as we go through menopause. Dr. Carrie Jones talks about this all the time, and how your body will preferentially detox your alcohol before it'll detox your estrogens correctly. And so it's really important that we support our liver, we support our detox pathways, and we do so gently and consistently. It's not a take a bottle of this and you're done. It's like, this is part of a job now in middle age.
Yeah.
And I want women to understand that.
Yeah. Well, and it's a couple of things. First of all, women, none of us were really told how our body functions from a metabolic perspective. So, and the way I describe it is, I'm not much of a cook, quite honestly. So, unlike my two sisters who are magicians in the kitchen. So when I do cook, I need a recipe because it's foreign ground for me. And so I have the recipe and it tells you all the ingredients, and I go out dutifully and buy all my ingredients. And then if I follow the recipe, there's a 99% chance, pretty good chance it's going to come out as it should. Our bodies is the same way. But nobody has really, until recently, told you the recipe. And one of the recipe that I follow includes a very critical nutrient, because lots of times you have a very important part of your recipe. And for me, that's algae. Both spirulina and chlorella are part of your recipe, so that because if you follow the instructions and you follow the ingredients, you will have a more positive outcome. It just is the way it is. So that's one thing. The other thing is, it's if you lived in the Midwest, let's say, and the only cars you ever saw were used cars, and everybody's driving around, they're all dirty. It doesn't matter how many times you take that used car to a car wash and make it look pretty on the outside. If you don't fix the engine on the inside, it's still never going to work properly. So you can do all this sort of buffing and like, the patches for the estrogen patch, but if you don't address the bigger issue inside first, there's only so much traction that you're going to get. The better thing is to address the issue that's going on inside. And you'll find it by listening to Dr. Tyna, some of these issues, so that you can then start taking your car to the car wash and start adding the extra pieces. But you're only going to get so much mileage out of that old jalopy until you fix it. So algae is one of the things that will fix it. It's not just a patch, it's a fixer, because it fixes, repairs, and protects your mitochondria so they can grow and be more plentiful and more powerful, because they are ultimately what is giving your body the cellular energy it needs to perform in every single function. So that's why I'm so bullish on algae, is because, yes, it's great. It satisfies your hunger and gives you energy, and your skin improves. There's 1,000 lists of benefits, and it's almost unbelievable if it wasn't all proven in 100,000 studies that nobody seems to know about. But it does work, but it gets right to the root cause, which is getting your mitochondria functioning again. And it does it with food, which is a miracle in its own right, because you don't have to get any kind of prescription drug, and it has no downsides. There's no drug interactions of any kind. So, by the way, it's a very affordable food. We sell them in large bags. Dr. Tyna has a discount code she's going to share with you. But the bags are the largest best value. There's 1,000 tablets in a bag, and there's 1,000 tablets equals 551 pounds of vegetables. But using Dr. Tyna's discount code, and you took 10 tablets a day, which is a sort of a starter dose. It costs you $1 a day. So you can protect your health, bring back your mitochondria, turn the lights back on in your brain and your metabolic system, and still be nourished and get great skin and hair, and all at once. It's like the gift that keeps on giving. It's again, it would almost be unbelievable if it wasn't so science-based. So we're not talking a very expensive thing to do, or you don't have to go to a clinic and get injections or anything. It's foundational food. It's really foundational food.
It is. And sorry, my little visitor's up here on my lap now. He decided he was going to.
Oh, it's great for pets, by the way. Anyone's listening.
Oh, he loves them. Actually,
dogs and cats absolutely love them. Yeah. And they have the same health issues we have.
I use them to train him. He's a puppy, so he's a pushy little puppy. Well, I should say he's about 1.5 years now, but he's a youngin. Anyway, I use the ENERGYBits to train him, so he loves them. He loves them. My other dogs won't go after him the way he does. He knows that they're a treat, and he absolutely gobbles them up. It's so cute. So they're easy they're small, so they're easy just to use as little trick treats.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a food, and so I don't think of it like a supplement. I don't, I get so tired of taking pills and powders and all the things. And I've got the whole countertop of supplements. And it's like, oh, this gets arduous and it gets expensive. And I do love the ENERGYBits because I think of them as just whole food. It's just an easy kind of a no-brainer. Do it in the morning, do it at night. Take a little bit extra if I've been exposed to toxins that day.
Yeah.
My husband's so cute. He doesn't believe me in that his farm life is quite toxic life. He comes in smelling like diesel and like oil and fuel, and I don't know, he's probably bathing in this stuff outside as he's tinkering with tractors, and it's so gross. I won't even let him bring the clothes inside anymore. And when they get bad enough, I'm like, we're not even going to wash these. Like, I got to throw this away. This is so bad. And so I rush him over. I'm like, get over here. And he knows he's got to take his ENERGYBits. He's got to take, take the whole thing. And then if it's really bad, I throw some extra glutathione at him. But it's like, I think he's up there with bare hands and arms in this toxic garbage. So that's just farm life.
Now that you mentioned glutathione, the chlorella has the highest glutathione in the world. So it's really amazing. So that's one of the reasons why chlorella is so detoxing and why we called it ENERGYBits, because it helps you recover your health. But I chew all of mine. You can't chew supplements. I chew mine. I chew them with sea salt, or I add pistachio nuts, or if you're keto, macadamia nuts are really great. Slices of fruit if you like. Some people put them in their smoothie, just grind them up first and put them in your smoothie. So it's really up to you. They're great for kids as well. That's why you don't have to worry about anything. It's not age specific. They're good for fasting. They don't have any carbs. So they don't interfere with your fasting. There's no lectins or oxalates. So if you're a carnivore and you are avoiding vegetables because you don't want lectins and oxalates, you're good to go, because algae started in the ocean and didn't have to develop lectins or oxalates to protect themselves. So, so it's low carb, low cal, no lectins or oxalates. Paleo, who like ancestral foods, you can't get any older than algae. It was the first life on Earth. So it's been around. Yeah, it's still here. It just needed someone to explain it.
You're like the algae fairy. I think that the carnivore community could get on this too, because I do think that they need some greens in their life. And this is an easy way to do it without having to do the whole plant life thing.
Exactly.
The people who are like vehemently against plants, I think spirulina and chlorella are a good option there. I know that when I was more carnivore, that was like my other substrate was my ENERGYBits. Yeah. So I eat more vegetables now than I used to, but yeah.
You need the chlorophyll, and you can't get decent chlorophyll from vegetables anymore because there's no nutrients in them. And chlorophyll builds your blood. I'm not sure if I showed you this before. So your hemoglobin and chlorophyll are virtually the same cellular structure. Your hemoglobin has iron in the middle. That's what carries oxygen. And chlorophyll has magnesium in the middle. But if you're not eating vegetables, you're not getting chlorophyll. And so when you have healthy blood, everything else is going to work better. You're going to carry oxygen more. You're going to have more energy.
This is just theoretical, but I have always noticed, because my background's in biology and cell biology, and I've always noticed that chloroplasts look a lot like mitochondria. And to me, it makes sense that we are and I mean, we can go into like the quantum biology and all that, but at the end of the day, we photosynthesize.
Correct.
As humans, and we can't do that if our mitochondria are not healthy. And I do believe we need chlorophyll in there to make this action happen at the end of the day. And I'm not going to be ignorant enough to say that I can explain all the different mechanisms, but I do think that those two things are pretty necessary. And so without good mitochondrial function, we can't really get the benefit of sunlight, red light, and all. This is why we're using red light to try to hone our mitochondria and get them to do something. This is why we're using strength training. This is why we're using even heat adaptation through heat shock proteins, trying to get the mitochondria to do something. But to me, it's like that meme where the guy's poking the thing with the stick and he's like, do something.
Yeah.
Sometimes people's mitochondria are just so petered out. And so they're trying everything. They're trying the peptides. They're trying the hormones, they're trying everything, and they're just like, they're flatlined. And so this is where I'm like, go outside, get some gentle movement started at least, and get some greens in your life so that we can get that absorption of red light optimized inside of our cells. And then, finding food. The other thing is straight up the greenery helps you absorb that red light. And so this is one way, very simple way to do it if you're not down with chewing on a bunch of plants.
Yeah. And there's, everyone's heard of the 80-20 rule, whether it's in life or business, that 80% of whatever you're aiming for comes from 20% of something. And then most people spend so much time on the other 20%. It takes so much effort and they only get 20% benefit. So on the 80-20 rule, I put algae in the 80 category. On its own, it's amazing what it does. And all those other things, whether it's peptides or red light or cold plunges, they bring up the number. But the 80 is coming from the algae, because on its own, without anything else, you're going to get massive improvement in your mitochondrial health. But when you leverage it and stack it with these other biohacks, then you get improved benefits. And so, as an example with red light, I know I showed you that those little molecules in the electron transport chain. I talked about the CoQ10 molecule being the cytochrome C molecule being a little helper molecule. Well, there's another little helper molecule called CoQ10. And they've done some research and found that when you have chlorophyll and red light, so it could be from a red light device or from the sun, when you merge, you have simultaneous chlorophyll and red light, it recirculates the CoQ10 molecule, which is another one of those helper molecules in that electron transport chain. So it regenerates, it also contributes to ATP, and also, this is one of the reasons why it contributes to reducing inflammation. So, and of course, algae has the highest chlorophyll in the world, both spirulina and chlorella. Chlorella has the most. So if you want the maximum, you get the spirulina because you get the helper molecule from the blue pigment, and you get the helper molecule from the chlorophyll. So, so to your point, we are generating electricity from the sun with chlorophyll. So that's pretty, and there's nothing in the world with more chlorophyll than chlorella algae, which is why it's called chlorella, because of the chlorophyll. So very, very efficient. But it just up levels every biohack, whether it's the cold plunges and the cold plunge, the cryo, the blood is rushing into the core to nourish, to protect your organs. And then when you step out, then all the blood rushes out to your extremities and brings energy. But while it was in the core, it's going through something called autophagy or apoptosis. Autophagy is basically cleansing, because your body needs to be cleansing its cells. This is why fasting is so great, because when you're fasting, you're not eating. And so eating dumps all these glucose and electrons into the electron transport chain to generate energy for you. But it's like you can't clean up your car while you're driving your car. So your cell has a hard time cleaning itself up while it's being overloaded with food. And the worst offender are carbs. When you eat too many carbs, there's a great video I see on you can see it on YouTube. It's with Lucille Ball. It's a segment from one of her episodes, and she was working at a chocolate factory.
Yeah,
and
I love that.
chocolate factory, conveyor belt, and she couldn't keep up. So she was stuffing all the chocolates in her mouth or throwing them over her shoulders. Well, when you eat carbs, this is what's going on. Your molecules in that electron transport chain can't keep up because carbs release the most free radicals. And so your poor little cell is getting so dumped on by free radicals because they escape from this process, the electron transport chain. So the best thing to do, even if you don't want to go keto, just reduce your carbs. It will make your electron transport chain more efficient. So fewer free radicals, more electrons, because when they escape, they turn into free radicals. So it just so you want to reduce the free radicals, and you want to eliminate them, and that's what the SOD does. So anytime you can stop eating from using intermittent fasting or fasting, it reduces the load of electrons being moved along the electron transport chain, so your cell has a chance to clean up. And algae has no carbs, so it helps with the autophagy and the apoptosis, which also happens when you're doing cold plunges or cryotherapy. But even on its own, it's very much the cleanup crew. And I tell people, lots of times they only think of algae as the thing that's closed their favorite beach. And I remind people, well, algae is the cleanup crew in nature too. You can't see the toxins or bacteria that are in the water, but that's the algae shows up to get rid of them, to absorb them, and to kill them. And it does the same thing in your body too, especially the chlorella. So it's the cleanup crew. So maybe you have a big mess to clean up or a little mess to clean up, but it will clean it up and get you back on track. And it does it from food.
Yes, yes. And chlorella has B vitamins in it as well, which are something that a lot of us end up very deficient in throughout life. Our stress response gets off the charts when we are not getting enough B vitamins. And so finding just different ways to get food sources, without having to take a whole litany of bottles of pills and think about it. That's the thinking about it part. It's overwhelm. It's decision fatigue. That's, I get that. Honestly, that is my favorite thing about the ENERGYBits. I was skeptical when I was first presented with them and I started taking them. And I told you the story. My husband started first and he was like, these really work. Like he takes whatever I tell him to take, but he never compliments any of it, and he's like, these really work. And then I realized the decision fatigue of looking at am I getting enough of this and enough of this? And it's exhausting.
It's and also foods become political, and there's so many different things that you have to do if you pursue a paleo or a carnivore diet. And so even if you change nothing else, and just started taking these, you would feel an improvement. And as I mentioned, it saves you money, it saves you time. Let's go out and use that extra time to go for a run or be with your family or do whatever it is you want to do, and you're still getting nourished. I call spirulina your nutritional insurance because it gives you the protein, the collagen, the SOD, 40 vitamins and minerals. And I call chlorella your health insurance because it builds your immune system, pulls out heavy metals, supports your gut biome, helps with elimination. Yes, I said elimination. Chlorella is a beautiful thing to help with bowel movements. And most people aren't talking about constipation or pooping. But if you're taking medications, you're traveling, you're eating a lot of dairy, you're eating a lot of processed foods, you're eating a lot of gluten, I can almost promise you are constipated. And chlorella, not spirulina, only chlorella, will help you get on top of that and have a happy bowel movement in the morning, because elimination is very important. So it's not just what you're taking in nourishment wise, it's what you're getting rid of, because there's this stuff that I call the junk in your trunk. And you want to get rid of that, because if it's sitting there, your blood circulates around those, because those are toxins and stuff that your body just didn't want. And so it's recirculating. It's like having a garbage truck parked in front of your house permanently. And who wants that? So we want to get rid of that junk in your trunk, and you do that with chlorella. So it offers you all of the benefits of a plant-based diet, the fiber, because it has the fiber in it, and it does the stimulation of the peristalsis. So they work so beautifully together. Spirulina, by the way, I also call it brain food, because remember I mentioned your brain has the highest mitochondria, 2 million per cell. And so the first thing that turns back on is your brain, because of the high concentration of mitochondria and the high superoxidase in the spirulina that's getting to your brain. So we all know that fatty fish are brain food. Well, spirulina is very much a brain food. And then chlorella, I consider gut food, because it has the fiber for your gut biome. It has the chlorophyll that kills bacteria. It stimulates peristalsis. It has the 40 vitamins and minerals that build your immune system. So it's very much your gut health algae. And if it helps you at all to think about it, differently, I've come up with some analogies. I travel a fair amount, and sometimes I get room service, and so it nourishes me for the day. And I get out the door, I have lots of energy. I thought, that's sort of like spirulina. So think of spirulina as room service. And then chlorella, you come back to your room and it's all cleaned out. The garbage has been taken out. And I thought, that's sort of like chlorella. So think of chlorella as housekeeping. Spirulina is your room service, and chlorella is your housekeeping. They do completely different things, but they are both, really essential for living well and living optimally. And I tell people, it's never too late to feel great. I don't care what age you are. By the way, I'm turning 70 next year, and so
I know that's what I was going to add. I was going to say you got to tell them how old you are.
Yeah. And this is my hair, and I don't have any Botox, and these are my teeth. And I do hot yoga. I do Pilates on the machines. I run a company. I'm traveling all over the place. I got my PhD when I was 68. So ladies, there is no expiry date on our forehead. The society seems to want us to believe that, and it's not there. And I want to encourage you, whatever your dream is, whatever you want to do, just go and do it. Don't listen to anybody else. Just listen to yourself, because your soul it will always whisper to you, by the way. It will not shout at. Your ego will shout, your soul whispers. Your soul is who you should be listening to. Your soul is who you really are. Your soul is why you are here on earth. Your soul will help direct you to find joy. Joy is what you are here to experience. That is it. But society likes us to think, well, after the end of 40, you don't deserve any joy, or why would you get any joy? You're supposed to be, going out and getting ready for retirement. Screw that. The best time of your life should be now. You've kind of figured out who you are. You're realizing how much bullshit is out there in the world. You're realizing you're the only one that you should be listening to. So you have this confidence level. So with the confidence level, I want you to feel energized. I want you to feel mentally on point, have the acuity, have the wherewithal to go, I deserve this, because you do. And but we listen. If we listen to the noise of the outside world, it will have us going down a path, and then you realize it was not the one that you really wanted after all. So I want to give you, but it takes energy to live. It takes energy to pursue your dreams. It really does. And so I want to give you the energy, and it takes good health to do that too, because you can't very well be, doing all this travel and juggling all the things that we women do if you don't have health and energy. So those are my core foundational promises to you. Mother Nature gave this to us as a gift to ensure we have the nourishment and the health. I'm just giving you a very clean, safe version of it, and I'm helping you understand why it works. But if I can get it into you, I can promise you it will do amazing things for you. And we have amazing lives to live, and each one of us has our own perspective on that. And I want you to be able to enjoy that and explore it. And do not listen to anybody telling you it's too late. It's never too late to feel great, ever, ever, ever.
I love it. That's the best advice. We should have just started with that.
Yeah.
It's sage advice, because I was telling my best friend the other day, we've been best friends for 40 years, and we were sitting there thinking about how, we both were such pretty little things, and we used to get whatever we wanted, especially when we were together. Like together, we were just, a powerhouse. And there we are laying by the pool, getting completely ignored. And I'm like, I think the time has passed. I think we're past that part. And she's laughing. And I said, it's really too bad, the irony that, and I take care of so many women like this, and so many women like this follow me, the irony that you finally get to the place where you're making the kind of money that you want to make, and you're able to have hopefully the time to travel, and especially as the kids are leaving the nest. And so many women get to that point and their health is in complete shambles. And it's so sad and devastating. And I certainly am not in any kind of perfect health. I definitely have my issues, but I think I'm doing better than most my age. And you're definitely doing better than like 99.9% of the women your age. And that's sad. Like that shouldn't be the case. What you just said is absolutely the truth. We should be thriving, not, scraping to get by.
And I'm so proud to tell people my age now because if I can do it, and honestly, I have not done anything special except take algae every single day for the last 15 years. And I wouldn't miss it. I don't know what I would do without it, quite honestly. It's a game changer for me. And it's so essential that I wrote a little booklet. I was looking for a copy of it. I can't seem to put my hand. A little book called The Algae Love Story, because we all need love. We can't live without love. It energizes us. It feeds us. It's natural. And algae is everything that love is. From a nutritional perspective. And so we're going to put the little book on our website soon, but it's called The Algae Love Story, because I started the company out of love, and algae will just love you to death, love you to life, I think we should say. Algae will love you back to life for sure. So, and again, it's food and it's natural, and there's one ingredient. We know that when foods have multiple ingredients, they're probably not good for you. You can't get any less than one. And it's like meeting the one. So I've met the one, and it's algae. I call myself the algae gal, because the gal next door is for everyone, and so is algae. It's really for everyone. And I'm going to try to be building algae farms here in Florida, because we need to have it grown here in America in large quantities. In Asia, it's a multi-billion-dollar agricultural crop. It's as big as the beef industry is, and that's why you don't know about it, because it's really not grown here. Like, we have corn and wheat and tomato patches, but we don't have huge algae farms. But if I do this right, I'm going to have some algae farms here in America for you very soon. A couple of years. And
I hope so.
Yeah. So I want it to be as natural as any other food group that you're familiar with. So we're doing our best.
I love it. Well, it's always such a treat to have you on, and you guys have offered a really generous discount. I'll make sure all of that is in the show notes so folks can take advantage of that. I've heard great feedback about your product from the last podcast. So I have certain supplement companies that sponsor me, and I love having guests on and learning all about the products. I don't always get to hear about it though. And your product is one that I consistently hear from my followers saying, you know what, I bought those ENERGYBits. They're great. They're great for traveling. You guys sell them with a little tin. So they,
or they're canisters that come with a bag in them. And you just, you only buy a canister once, and then you just refill it with the bags, and you just shake the tablets out through the canister. So if you have a family, then your hands aren't going into the different bags. And we have little travel pouches that you could toss in your gym bag or a handbag. The red one, by the way, is the blended algae tablet. But we get testimonials emailed to us literally every day. It's what people just absolutely love them. So I'm very proud. Our whole team is really proud of what we do. We're very education oriented. I taped 200 teaching videos last year. I'm going to do 200 more, just helping people understand their bodies and mitochondria and algae, because it's here to stay. So you might as well, as I say, get on the algae train now. It's that way you can understand, and you can use discernment to be sure that you're getting the best. Although I'm a little biased, I still think ours is the best, and doctors seem to feel the same way. So thank you, Dr. Tyna, for allowing me the opportunity to share my passion with you and your community. Algae is the love story of my life. I'm still single, so it's the best I'm going to get, I think.
Well, you look fantastic. So whatever you're doing, maybe that's the secret.
Some 26-year-old tried to pick me up yesterday. I thought, well, okay, I guess I'm still in the game.
Good job.
I could probably be his grandmother.
I love it. No, that's the secret. Whatever you're doing it right. So you are the goals. Yeah. Well, it's just lovely to have you on as always. And I hope you'll come back, and I'll make sure to get all the links in the show notes for people to go and dive into the science further and get the discount and check it out for themselves, because this really is one product. Discount.
Yeah, Dr. Tyna, use it at ENERGYBits.com, and come and see us anyways. We have lots of great stuff there. All right.
Awesome. Okay, will do. Thanks, lady.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Dr. Tyna Show. This is a Wellness Loud production produced by Drake Peterson and mixed by Mike Fry. Theme song is by John the Guilt. You can watch the full video version of this podcast inside the Spotify app or on YouTube. As always, you can email the podcast at podcast@drtyna.com. That's DRTYNA. And if you like this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can also find all of my offerings on my website at drtyna.com. For more shows by my team, go to wellnessloud.com. See you next time, and thanks for listening. This podcast is for general informational purposes only. It does not constitute the practices of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. I am a doctor, but I am not your doctor. No doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content on this podcast is intended not to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions.